Welcome to Oink Time Pod. I'm Jen Carnovale.
I'm Ben Ellwood.
This week we had a wonderful conversation with the awesome Rebecca De Unamuno.
Oh man, Rebecca De Unamuno, ABC radio host, stand-up comedian and award-winning improviser extraordinaire. It was a fantastic conversation.
We chat about technology, improv, power of performance, love and evolution. If you like the podcast,
Please follow us on Twitter at OinkTimePod. Guys, if you like the pod, rate and review it on iTunes. And you know what? Tell a friend. Tell a friend who you think would enjoy it.
tell everybody. Our theme song is done by the awesome Wow Wow Wow. We are produced by Sean Allen and sponsored by the wonderful Young Henry's Brewery. Go and drink their beer.
Now, please enjoy our conversation about evolution with the great Rebecca De Unamuno.
Evolution, 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 evolution,
In panic, yeah, but I always have. Like in high school, the assignment was always done the night
Last
before.
minute, same. I find that with the radio too, because I sit there and I like when I was doing Sunday mornings, I had to work on Thursdays from 9 till 5.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there at this desk going, I've never worked in an office environment before. You've got all these different like people in this open plan office all panicking because as the news comes on, things are happening. It's a news, room.
Yeah.
So you just, everything's going on. And I'm like, it's too loud. It's too distracting. This isn't my desk. The chair's too high. Like my feet are dangling. Like it's just
I don't like the computer.
It's everybody else's stuff and photos. And I was just like, and I felt so out of sorts. And I was just going, this is the worst. And so often I would do exactly the same thing and then go home and in the safety of my own world, I could write the scripts a lot better. Because I just felt like it was my environment. But yeah, fish out of water completely.
Oh, it's terrible.
Well, they always...
No.
I was going to say they always say creative people are so aware of their surrounds, which I definitely am. Like I feel it all,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Also this idea of like, be creative now, 9 to 5, halogen lights, you're in a fucking panopticon, everyone's surrounding you, I can do it.
I know.
It's,
I was like, I had my first like professional writing job this year. Like I wrote for Family Feud for like until we got axed. Wasn't my fault. Clearly, I was the last one brought on. I brought it down from the inside. huge pointless fan, just couldn't wait for it to come on. But it was that thing of like,
there is some bragging rights to that if you did destroy Family Feud.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty good.
Exactly. Just ask Daniel if he thinks that's the case. But it was great because I had to write these scripts and then I had to get all the I chatted to all the contestants. I had to go through all their application forms and look at all their stories and pluck out the stories for each one to tell, put them all on Grant's card, and then I briefed him before every episode on all the people. But that was laborious for me in the sense that sitting down, having to churn through. I couldn't stop until it was done. Like there was none of that. I'll leave it till next week because then I'll have more ideas.
Yeah, you got a deadline.
I got a deadline. I got to do this. I found it so difficult to start with.
Yeah.
And for me, then the joy was during the episodes because Grant had an earpiece and I could talk to him, and so I could feed lines and we could, and that kind of stuff. And then I went, this is my wheelhouse. This is what I'm used to. So I totally, like, the whole writing thing was just like, this is hard.
Well, especially in that environment. I mean, I don't think we're office people, No. I mean, I don't know if anyone's an office person, really. I think people force themselves into that, round hole.
I think some people like the comfort. Like the comfort of, the methodical type of like, I get up, I go to work, I have my coffee, I sit down, I write my email. They sort of, can be really comforting, I think.
Dude, it's the first
I'm not
time.
saying for me, but I can
I just
definitely see maybe.
It just feels, I don't know, like I used to have so much contempt for people that, when I was younger, especially when I was like, these fucking slobs, they come home and they just sit in front of the fucking TV. Don't they realize they're on borrowed time? They're wasting their time. And now it's like, no, I get it. By the time you fucking
from work.
traveled fucking an hour each way and I get home, it's like, no, I'm not reading fucking War and Peace. I'm going to watch fucking Netflix.
And that's why I go home and like I've watched every series of The Real Housewives of everywhere.
Yeah.
Because I go, I don't have to think. Like I can just like sit in front of this television.
Spoon feed
let
me.
it wash over me like a wave of shit.
Bring it on, man. Sister Wives. I was so hard into Sister Wives.
What is Sister Wives?
Tell me
Sister Wives.
tell me he got another wife. I don't give a fuck. I was so into it.
But what is it?
I swear it's like fucking Mormon propaganda. There's all these shows. There's so many shows at the
Polygamy
moment.
shows.
Yeah, about like how happy they all are with one dude and his 4 wives, and they're like, we're just doing it for God.
Jesus.
And it's like mental, but that's totally my like switch off, eat mac and cheese because it's my favorite, the big one that you can get, and watch that.
Yeah.
Just
the best. Like I know,
hour and
I'm
hour.
a little bit excited to know that I go home tonight and I've got an episode of The Real Housewives of Orange County. Like it's just sitting there waiting for me. Like, it's like,
I get it.
so good.
it's so good. But then have you seen the Escaping Polygamy? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's all these
Is polygamy illegal?
Not in Utah, and so a lot of them move there to practice it.
But these,
So not really.
Yeah, not really. But these are like
It happens here.
women that have left, like they've left the cult or whatever they were part of, the order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
the
part
order.
of. And then their job is to, when people want to escape, they contact them. So their job is to organise, and it's literally in the dead of night, headlights off. Driving in properties, got a security guy with them. Get your stuff now, run, go, and just chuck stuff in the car and drive off.
I swear it's fucking propaganda because every story they have is happy. And after watching it for ages, my partner came home and I was like, doesn't look that bad. Like it doesn't look.
Let's get another couple of ladies in here.
Bring a woman. He was like, fuck no.
Really? Christmas night?
I was yes. Well, can you imagine another me? I'm like crying, eating mac and
God.
cheese and saying we should become polygamists.
Could-
You don't
is-
want to double down on that.
Is there a way to do, like, do you think there's a way to do polygamy ethically?
No.
no.
Not at all.
No.
Because
I mean, I don't know enough about it.
But it's interesting because I watch all these. I watched that documentary on Warren Jeffs, who's the head
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
this, one of the big families, like which is a cult.
He's
you
in
know,
jail
essentially.
now.
He's in jail now, but like he was saying he was this direct descendant of God and
The LDF.
and all the LDF.
That's who he's the head of.
And all these people believe him. And so then he says, whatever he says goes as far as, well, it's the word of God.
Daddy.
So him having sex with young girls was the word of God,
Yep.
and because these people are clearly desperate for something in their lives to hang on to cling to,
yeah.
they believe it.
Well, they grow up with it.
and they
What is
go-
the
and it's-
religion?
It's Mormonism.
Oh, it's Mormonism.
It's a break off
it's a
of
break
Mormonism.
off of it,
Right.
But really extreme. And you just think, no, there's nothing is like you can't be altruistic. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's totally
The,
an agenda.
Latter-day
Yeah.
Saints.
Has there ever been in history the reverse, where there's like an alpha woman with a harem of men?
Hopefully in Africa somewhere. but,
So
I mean,
like has
Where Wonder Woman's from.
Amazonia? Yeah, totally.
I don't know. But, you know.
Because I think men would probably be too, like there'd be too much fucking kind of chest thumping bullshit, dick measuring for that to ever even.
yeah, they'd kill each other, I guess, back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole point is to have as many children as possible within these religions. And they... Fuck, I watched too much of this. They say what the man in the family. So if you were the dude, Ben, and you had 4 wives, you are
couldn't imagine
walking
anything more exhausting
Hey.
than 4 fucking wives.
7. But you okay?
Jesus,
So you
I
have
can
like
barely hold on to a girlfriend for 2
I
weeks.
struggle to find a partner. Day. Like, Jesus.
it's full on. It's full on. So like you have like a litter of wives, and
litter.
you do,
Very good.
and you are as the man of the house walking and representing Jesus in his steps. So you are creating a like his disciples.
Am
and
I a
his,
manifestation of Christ?
Yeah,
like I'm
you are.
right, I
You
see.
are
Oh,
held
wow,
up to
this
that
doesn't
regard.
sound too bad.
Yeah, like, oh, that's one fantasy ticked off. But so
I've always had
your
a slight messianic complex.
your aim is to basically create the world of little Jesus followers and to produce as many babies as possible. It's so nasty, man. Like you see some of them where they're like 16-year-old girls, and the way they figure out who they're meant to marry in this one cult is where the name will come to them from God, and if the name doesn't come to them from God, so like they'll be asleep and their parents will say, "Has a name come to you, Beck?" And Beck will go, "Oh yeah, Jim." Bob the fifth. And then they'll go, well,
Jim Bob the Fifth.
Bradley Cooper.
you get hooked up and you marry him. But if you don't have that name and you're old, as in fucking 20, you go to the elders of the community who are just a bunch of old dudes who will set you up. So you can be a 19-year-old girl marrying a 60-year-old man.
Even like
Yeah.
14 and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
and
It's
it's
really
like,
fucked up.
I'm the fifth wife of so and so. They get interviewed. I'm the fifth wife of so and so, and then it turns out that it was their cousin that they were
there's a lot of
married to,
inbreeding.
and like there's a lot of that stuff going on. It's fascinating. Get on it.
Yeah,
It's the last thing I'll say
I'm interested in cults in general, just, any kind of cult mentality, because there's a part of me that's like, obviously not that extreme, but, sometimes I wish that I could believe anything
You wanna
that
be in
much.
one?
No, I wouldn't. I'd like to be, I
You wanna
do
be in
think
one.
that if the apocalypse ever comes, my survival coping mechanism will be to become a minor cult leader. That's the only skill I have is some kind of slight charisma where I could convince a small group of people to do my bidding.
Come this way.
But beyond that, like, no, you don't want to be a part of a cult. But I do, like, it must feel comforting to have, and I'm not talking about extreme cults like Wild Wild Country or anything
No,
like that.
even that would be comforting.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, yeah.
I totally get why people do
Yeah,
it.
just to believe or
Oh
to
my
feel like
God.
you're part of something.
Yeah.
I get why in heaps of these situations as well, there are young families, say they're in their, 40s, 50s, whatever, 30s. They've got a few children. Life is so fucking hard. They find these communities on the internet. They pack up their lives and move there. And people are like, why would you do that? It's like, because life is too hard. Because
right.
if you boil it down to, I can't make another decision or handle the internet ever again, and all I have to do is pray and not wear zippers, then I'll be fine. There's my horse. Yay.
And that's
like,
why a lot of them, like Wild Wild Country, you mentioned, like
that's
the
so
orange
good.
people, and
good.
I remember
So
when that Sheila came out and was on a current
Tough
affair, or the
titties.
tough titties. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
tough
So
titties,
good.
yeah.
So clearly from
It
when I
was
was a
meme
kid.
before the internet.
Tough titties.
Yeah.
And but so many of them that join, like, and I watch a lot of stuff on cults as well. And
Oh, me too.
I'm doco crazy, but
You should, watch Holy Hell. That's all. Keep going.
great. And, but a lot of the people that joined, like back in when these cults originated, so and a lot of them came out of the 60s, and it was because people were completely fucked up on drugs. Like people were living a life that was like of excess and just like free forming, and suddenly people are like, oh shit, like where is my direction?
Yeah.
And that's what they're seeking. So a lot of them are former like hippies in a way that have kind of gravitated towards this because they feel their life may be spiraling slightly out of control.
Yeah.
And they see this as some kind of sense of order and structure that they can sort of stick to. And I think it's, I mean, I think in a way religion is kind of like that. Organised
absolutely.
religion is a way for wayward souls and to give them a grounding or an anchor or some kind of peace of mind.
Yeah, in the beginning, they're just moral stories to keep people in line. So it's just the extension of that.
Yeah.
But also, like, in the case of Wild Wild Country and that whole Bhagwan thing, when you're actually looking at those first couple of episodes where they're describing, we just want to build this utopia. Man, I was 100% on board. I was like, this sounds great. You know, I mean, when it turns into, and that's when we got automatic weapons and, we got our own police force. That's when you're like, okay, this is getting...
And that's like any organised religion. Inevitably, there is hierarchy and power structures in place. And so when people get a taste of power, regardless of where you are in the middle of the desert, wherever you are in this commune, whatever, as soon as there's a touch and a hint of power, our human nature is to either exploit that or
intoxicating.
hold it over people. And so it's inevitable that it's going to happen in any religious
There's that
structure.
weird thing where the leaders are always into sex with everyone. I know. Where they're like, you will get holy if you fuck my old man dick.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're
My
always-
cum is a holy sacrament.
like what if there was a cult leader that just said, I know, no one's to touch me. I'm not interested.
Yeah, I know.
Do as you will amongst yourselves, but look, I'm just not into it anymore. Like,
An asexual
very-
cult leader.
That's
I'd love to see if that ever fucking happened.
I don't think that you can get it. I think you're right. I don't think you can ever get a group of. I'd love to know what the tipping point is. Like how many people before it turns to shit. Because I think you could probably get.
Getting
maybe
involved.
10 people. Well, maybe like 12 people could live on a commune together and live in some kind of harmony. I still think you'd need some kind of personal space, maybe little cabins here or there.
Well, families can't live together.
Yeah, I know. This is the
Exactly.
thing. As soon as you increase the
Partners
numbers,
who are in love, who want to have sex or be naked with each other or hold each other at night, can't live together. So it's like,
I get the Osho thing though, the Bhagwan. Because I was before I knew how fucking twisted he was, I liked him very much in my early 20s. I mean, it's a very famous YouTube clip. Maybe we should find the audio and play it at the end of this episode. It's amazing. But it's him breaking down why fuck is the greatest word in the English language.
He's so charismatic.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Doing a type 5.
Yeah, no. Honestly, it's one of the best comedy routines you've ever seen, and it's him just going, if Nietzsche is right and God is dead, then the only word that matters is fuck, and fuck is a pronoun, and fuck is a vowel, and he's giving all, and he's saying it in this Bhagwan voice, and the parishioners are losing their minds laughing, and it's just, he's so charismatic and he's so funny, and then you subsequently find out, he's fucked on nitrous oxide, and he's got the world's biggest collection of Rolls Royces. He's completely insane.
Well, he was up for capitalism from the beginning. He was up for money from the beginning.
It's like what's that Indian guru? The modern Indian guru. Fuck.
Phil? No.
Is it Phil?
I can't remember his name. It's going to bug the shit out of me. But anyway, he talks about, the transcendence of being and, how we're all one with the universe. But, he still wears a gold fucking Rolex.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like there's always going to be the leader is always going to have more than the followers.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Well, I guess just by definition.
Yeah.
I think people got so involved in cults after the 60s because it's a perfect rebellion from their parents as well. There's this other doco of this guy who was back in the day, he's in retrospect crazy. He's this I think he was like 30, 40-year-old African-American guy who was like, I will get your kids out of cults. And he just went on a fucking mission because cults were so rampant, especially in the States. Have you seen it? Yeah, it's amazing. During the 60s, where parents would be like, our child has gone mental. We need help. And so part of the allure of those things of like peace, love, and sex is their parents are like, fucked up from war, and they're like taking drugs to vacuum all day, and then their kid stops shaving and starts taking LSD. Like it's like a big old, fuck you to what they know.
Totally.
It was so foreign.
I'm going to call my memoirs that in retrospect. Crazy.
In retrospect, ...
Because when I started watching it, I was like, this man's great. This man is really good. He's trying to help people. And then he's got a gun. You're like, whoa, a bit different.
Yeah. Tactics.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, the fine line between eccentricity and fucking madness. And I've been
scared as
No, I am.
Hey,
I
I'm
really
scared
am.
too.
What, for me or for you? For me. Oh, okay, good.
And you.
I know I'm going to be the crazy lady of Camperdown that's just wandering around and people go, there she is, she's back. Have you ever seen her before? No. She spends a lot of time inside watching really crap telly.
She's doing an improv show to a cat.
I'm already that person.
I share that fear. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, well, I've been saying to Jen, like, for the first time in my life, I've got a referral to go and see a shrink.
Yeah.
Great.
Because I've been very contemptuous of that up until now. And I'm very lucky. I've had the same doctor for 30 years and we're very, very close. He's actually been texting me all day about my referral. I'll find the messages that he's been sending. They're so funny. But, it's, I was saying to him, there's these certain personality traits that I have that, you hold on to them maybe early on, especially if you're in entertainment because, that's what makes me idiosyncratic and unique. I'm funny because I get angry and worked up or I'm anxious and that if I lose that, won't be funny anymore.
Yeah.
And I've suddenly hit this threshold. I'm 37 in 2 weeks and it becomes this thing where it's like, these things are fast going from cute to deep-seated mental illness. And if you don't fucking get this in check, God knows where it's going to go.
I did it last year. I did the mental health care plan. I got my GP to give me a referral and everything. And likewise, I was like, but I've always been so together. Like there's that part of you that says that part of your brain's going, but you're fine. You're quirky, but you're fine.
You're quirky.
And you go, but
I've got
you're
this under
sassy.
control.
But there's a reason why, and there's a reason why sort of patterns of behaviour keep repeating themselves. Like there's a reason behind, and it was my GP that said to me, we might want to look at, why you emotionally eat. Yeah. And I was like, we could look at that, or we could continue to do what I do and suppress that with more food.
Patch up the cracks in my soul with Neapolitan ice cream.
That's exactly right. Give me some chicken twisties. Everything will be fine. So, and I did it, and it was, I got to say, the first couple of sessions, I was like oh shit, like I was kind of on guard in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because you're assessing your therapist as well, because you're sizing them up because we're astute people and that's what you do.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about how the whole thing is you look at them and go, I bet you're a fucking idiot.
Exactly.
And I'm smarter than you.
You don't
I'm more in
understand
tune with my
shit.
feelings than you'll ever be.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to do it. And then I realised maybe 5 or 6 sessions in, and I said it to her, I said, I have noticed something about when I sit here and talk to you. And she's like, what? And I go, my voice changes
Wow.
In what way?
It becomes more childlike, more innocent.
Really?
And I could hear myself because I'm so used to listening to my voice all the time when I
you're
do
very
voiceover
aware.
and radio. I'm so aware of my voice. And I found that I was it was like a no filter because I was being so incredibly personally honest that there was no bravado in it. There was no, I've got to sell this. I've got to sound good. And I noticed that I was sounding childlike.
Wow.
With my voice. And she said, that's a really interesting observation. I said, does that make me crazy? You know? She's like, no.
I don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see at the end of the 10 weeks. You know? But it was honestly one of the best things I did because if nothing else, it expands because we wear blinkers so often in our own lives.
Yeah.
It just lets you see the peripheral.
Yeah.
You know, the edges of
Yeah.
what you're doing and just kind of gives you the chance to see a fuller picture because we're so focused on got to get this done today. Like you were saying, 9 to 5, I've got to write this shit, I've got to get this done. And we don't look at the wider sphere of it. And I applaud you. I think it's great.
I think there's also
It
a
is
trap
good.
if you're a kind of, an introspective person that, and, for better or worse, I am very across my own thoughts and I'm very honest with myself. There's very few things in my head that frighten me anymore or that, that I don't get into these long sessions of hating myself anymore.
Yep.
But it gives you this illusion that it's like, oh, I'm more introspective than most people, so I actually don't need anyone else to help me. I'm across this shit. I know who I am. And it's like, maybe that is true. I don't know. I'm yet to find out. I'll find out when I start talking to this person.
Age is such a beautiful thing. Like I'm 43. I'm 44 next year. But when I turned 30, I loved it because I was like, finally, I feel like I've got permission to be a grown up. Like I just sort of felt like I can grow, and I loved 30. I loved 40 even more.
Really?
And since turning 40, and I know it's such a cliche of older people going, just you wait till you turn.
No.
But turning 40 is it kind of. You know where you've been, you know where you kind of want to go, and you can totally appreciate and accept everything of where you've been, and you can use that to then go to where you want to go rather than try and suppress it like we did in our 20s. Let's not talk about that, shit time I had in high school, or let's not think about that. We're pushing it away. But when you're 40, you kind of eat up the baggage with you and you go, come on, I'm strong enough to carry this. You know.
Yeah.
I feel like two things. What you were saying, Benny, I feel like you are already on top of it because you are having the awareness to talk about it and think about it. Whereas a lot of people go through life at your age, whatever age, they're not even considering the prospect of dealing with their shit. They're just fucking running. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And then what you were saying, Beck, as well, is I feel like in my 30s, I am quite enjoying them. I feel like I've leveled out in a way, like mentally or hormonally. I don't know.
No, you have.
I've fucking leveled out.
You're a lot more chilled out.
I'm a lot more chilled out, and I think it's really good. Like I'm much happier, and I'm much more self-aware, and I feel like I have more control in the sense where I'm like, hey, I can not change how I feel, but if I do that, I probably won't feel great. Or if I do this, it'll, I'm a lot more aware of what I need.
Yeah, you've spent more time with yourself.
Yeah,
figure
you know
out
yourself.
who you are, and you kind of
Totally.
go, I get that I'm very impatient when it comes to these situations.
Yeah,
Whereas when you're younger,
Yeah.
I'm not impatient. Everybody else is stupid for not getting what I think
Totally.
I'm thinking or whatever.
Totally.
You can totally see yourself in the context. I think that's what it is, maybe.
Yeah.
You can see yourself in the context of the world a little better.
Yeah.
Like when you're 20, you just want to smash it all.
Yeah.
Smash it down,
clarity.
knock it
Yeah,
down,
yeah.
you know. And then when you're 30, you kind of go, I reckon I've got tools to do this that doesn't require me to use my fist.
And more aware
Yeah.
of your impact on space and other people.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
like I used to,
Yeah.
I used to, and I still do, but I mindlessly used to barrel into rooms like, blah, 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 blah. And like, dude, like you've got a really oppressive personality. Just back the fuck up. You know, I still do that, but now I'm able to kind of pull it back and go, oh man, I'm really sorry. And maybe I'll just, excuse myself for a few minutes, go and do some mindfulness exercises and return to the fucking conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you could not pay me $1 million to be 20 again. It's a fucking nightmare.
Oh, it's horrible.
It was horrible.
I had more insecurities then than I do now.
Totally.
Like back then I was worried about, do I look fat in this? Am I this? Am I too short? I'm this. My name is like, it's ethnic and like all these things. I was just like, problems. And now I'm like, if you don't like the way I look, if you don't like the way my name is, if you don't like all of that, honestly, your problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is.
I'm cool.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
so cool with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And that's what therapy does too. It gives you that opportunity to put that that gives you almost an affirmation that way of thinking is good.
Yeah.
And then
It's okay.
what you are bringing out in other people, or I mean, it's going to sound real wanky, but I'm also, like Benny was saying, like, I don't know if it's the age or if we've both just linked up to it. I'm ultra aware of what I'm putting out to other people, whereas I was not even consciously, but just way more fucking selfish in my 20s, man. And now if I'm in
You're
a...
wired to be in your 20s.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
and I mean, I'm not great at it still. Like, if we meet up and I'm anxious, I'm like, I'm anxious. You know, like, I preface that. It doesn't mean the person I'm with isn't going to have a fucked time. But, like, you know, and you feel fucking horrible. But when I was younger, like, you just almost play the card. Like, you'd be like, I'm feeling a lot. And whereas now I'm like, okay, you need to tell them because you don't want them to...
Exactly.
I think it's the difference
I don't know if that
between.
makes sense.
I think it's the difference between. For me, anyway, it was like in my 20s. It was like, oh, I am anxious. That's me. That's the totality of who I
All
am.
the
I am.
time.
No, but I am anxious as opposed to now. It's like, I feel anxious.
Yeah.
You know,
and
it's-
I think the use of I in your 20s is just, it's like, I this, I, it's all me. I see it like the 80s. You know, they said, the
They
80s
were
was the me
fabulous,
generation. Like, it was all about, like, you know, self-interest, self-worth, self-wealth. Like, it was all like, all of the...
Indulgent.
So indulgent.
Yeah.
And, like, now it's like you start to use I a lot less, and it's kind of like the collective of we.
Yeah.
Because you're figuring out that what you do and say has an impact on an entire group of people.
Do you think that's a bigger cultural shift that's happening with a lot of people, or do you think that's an age-related thing?
I think it's totally age.
Definitely age.
Because I see a lot of younger people now, and I just go, you are so unaware of anything else in this room, let alone the world.
Yeah.
Yes, I think young people, young people. I think social media and technology has meant that we're across what's going on in the world a lot more.
Yeah.
But we can also then be a lot more separate from it.
And more glib about it.
Because it's kind of, we see it every day, but it's not me. Whereas I feel like
Disconnected.
yeah, whereas now I feel like I'm part of this massive wheel of, you know, like, especially that's why my interest in politics is so strong, because I think it's really important to know what is governing us and what is making these, you know, determining these rules, and what's my place in selecting somebody who is what I think is the right thing to make this policy or this particular, you know, issue happen or be solved. So there's like a real, I don't know. It's
So
like
you're drawn more to like politics and what can change and sort of your actions in those things.
Yeah, I think social change is a friend of mine has a podcast called Change Makers, and she's gone around the world interviewing social change makers. And
cool.
It's an issue. Like, and she just finished. She's got the second season. It's just been released now, and she's talking. The first episode is her just talking to the creators and the cast and everything of Brooklyn Nine. What is it? Brooklyn Nine.
That comedy show.
Yeah, the Brooklyn Nine,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
The comedy show.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
911.
Something.
I didn't know.
And she said because they were dealing with race relations and all that kind of stuff within the context of the show.
Yeah.
And then they were pulled off air and it was cancelled, and then they've come back and all that kind of stuff. And so it can be anything. And then she spoke to, you know, the young people with the shootings in the States of the schools and everything, and speaking to the young kids who are rising up. And I think there's a real sense of our place in the world is a lot stronger because the world is at our doorstep now, whereas before it wasn't. But it's also so easy to just ignore it. And
Yeah, well, there's so many
I'm
more
not part of that,
distractions
you know. And
as
when
well.
you're 20, you know, you've got goon bags to
Totally, as you
drink,
should,
you know.
as you
You've
should.
got to play
Yeah,
Wheel
as you
Goon and, you know,
should.
all that kind of
Yeah,
You
stuff.
got regrets to make.
Exactly.
and-
You've got a reputation to follow you for the
Burn
rest of your
down.
life, you know.
Yeah.
Burn those bridges.
I think the danger of
You do.
the danger of the social media and everything, you know, like I mean, I've said this to you before, Jen. Like, I thank God every day that this stuff didn't exist in our 20s.
Oh, yeah. Or younger.
Or younger.
Yeah.
15,
All of
16.
it. Because as you were saying, your 20s, your teens, all of that is very much me. And the vast majority of the internet, as it currently stands, I mean, when the internet first started, it really was the Wild West. And
Yeah.
it was very anonymous. I mean, I used to, but I lost my virginity at 21, but I was having chat sex and phone sex with women in
Yeah, you
America.
were.
Yeah, from
Go,
like
Benny.
17 to 21. And it was before webcams, it
Yeah.
was before anything. It was completely anonymous. You could be who you wanted to be. You could try out different aspects of your personality. Now it's very much like a mall. The internet is the mall. There's
Absolutely
10
right.
sites that are the mono sites of the mall.
That are
BuzzFeed,
recording everything.
Vice, Facebook. It's it's very kind of homogenized now, and the vast majority of it is geared towards egotism and self-serving and clicktivism and kind of virtue signaling and I care about a thing, and it's like, well, you don't really pressing like on a tweet is not caring about the thing.
No, going out and marching in the streets is a thing. Like, I come from like old school, like when I was at activism and when I was at uni, I remember sitting in the middle of Parramatta Road and stopping traffic to protest John Howard's upfront student fees and stuff at uni. And I remember doing that and being terrified, but also knowing this is going to be noticed and this is going to make a difference.
Fuck yeah.
I can sit behind a keyboard and be a keyboard warrior all I want, but until you've walked the walk, shut up with the talk. I'm not interested.
It doesn't mean anything.
Remember Coney?
Yeah.
Coney's still doing what Coney does. Everyone was fucking onto the Coney thing for fucking 5 minutes, and then it's next.
Exactly.
Because you can't keep up.
And I worry about the young, like you mentioned, Jen, about the younger generation.
Yeah.
And like, I've got nephews who are, 9 and or soon to be like 10 and
I've got
8.
nieces.
And like, it's all, take a photo. And I just go, I'm just so glad that I'm not a kid that is growing up in an era where likes determines who you are.
Yeah.
Like, we were all desperate to be liked when we were kids, but it was a very different thing. Desperate to be liked was interpersonal. It was you wanted them to, know you and like
The thing
you.
that horrifies me for children now is, can you imagine? I mean, I was fortunate in that I wasn't bullied in school, but I slipped very much under the radar. I was just sort of silent and really quiet and oddly aggressive. But if you were really badly bullied, you leave school. There was a certain time in history now where that was it until you went back the next day.
Yeah.
Now it does not stop. If you have any internet presence at all, which most children do, it is just like this fucking onslaught. Can you imagine being
it's crazy.
8 in bed, your parents don't know, and your phone is pinging, and it's just people telling you that you're a piece of shit. It's like that is going to leave an imprint on your developmental brain. Like it's going to.
The
It's
suicide
mental.
rate for young women, under 20, is up 70%.
Yeah.
So scary.
Because the bullying is following them wherever they go.
Yeah.
Back when we were growing up, of course, there was the toxicity of magazines and billboards
But
and all
that's
of it.
different
Exactly.
to-
It was sequestered to the street. This is a fucking device that is in your, like you said, in your bed. I mean,
Yeah.
I know people who allow their kids to have their iPhone on them as they fall asleep at night.
Yeah.
So where's the time to even process the day?
Exactly.
Where's the time to sit there and go, what did I learn today?
Yep.
What mistakes did I make today that I don't want to repeat tomorrow? That was invaluable to me growing up.
Yeah,
And
I loved that.
everyone is now putting their best face forward.
Oh, it's
and by that,
insufferable.
Instagram. Like,
I
I see
don't
these
have
young women that will be standing there taking a selfie, and they'll go through 7 or 8
Oh,
before
man.
they hit upon the magic photo, and then you filter the shit out of it so it looks nothing like you, and you go, so you're not even representing a true version of yourself. This is such a false, and we talk about body image and body positive image and all that sort of stuff, which I think there have been massive inroads in the last 10 years. It's fantastic. But when you've still got young girls that are filtering themselves to make them look a certain way to appeal to a bunch of strangers,
Yeah.
that's another aspect that we have to counteract. Because yes, you can have as many, plus size models on the iconic.com ads as you want now, which is great for those girls looking for somebody to see themselves in. But if you yourself can't portray a genuine you, where are we going right?
I remember being on holiday. I went to Vietnam with Chris. We were sitting in Hoi An, which to me is one of the most romantic places in the world, like French architecture, Vietnamese history, fucking stunning. Yeah. In this little cafe, I look over. The chick next to me spent, I'm not kidding, what would have been 20 plus minutes getting her partner to take photos of her sitting in the cafe.
Wretch.
This is while the sun's going down.
No, you're missing it.
In one of the most romantic, it's not Venice, but to me, it was one of the most romantic places in the world. And I was just like, this is so fucking
But this
sad,
is the way it is.
man.
The first
But
time.
that's why people are joining these fucking fucked up cults
No,
because they're like, I don't want my children to be like this.
Oh,
so
if I had kids, not like as far as I'm concerned, if you give an iDevice to a child under the age of 12, you are you should be charged with first-degree murder of their imagination. You fucked them up. You fucking made a mistake. And it seems to me so much of modern parenting is, there you go, buddy. You have that. Here's the deal. You can play with it as much as you like. Just never talk to me again.
Yep.
And you are creating addicts. You are creating this fucked up it's just so, and there's no awe. You know, like the first time I went to the Natural History Museum, and this was before even, this was in 2007.
This is before Ben Stiller got in there.
And fucked everything up. But this was 2007, so it wasn't even, I don't think even Instagram was around then. But it was, just iPhones or whatever. Camera phones had just started becoming a thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's new technology.
Yeah. And I went to the Natural History Museum in New York City, which is one of the greatest I spent 3 full days in this museum. It is unbelievably awe-inspiring. And I don't know if it's like this anymore, but they'd constructed it in a way that you turned kind of a hairpin corner, and all of a sudden you are like standing beneath a full-size skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex rearing up.
I love dinosaurs.
And I still remember the sound, like it was an involuntary that came out of me when it was just like, holy
magic
shit.
Yeah.
I'd only ever seen replica bones before, and this is a real T-Rex. Apex predator, beautiful, everything. It's everything. And there was this woman standing in front of it doing the selfie thing over
and over again. Yeah, they do like 50.
And checking it. No, that one's not good. Do another one. And it's just like, at what point is it not about you?
Yeah.
You're standing in front of a fucking dinosaur, man. Like, it just...
I know.
Where's the awe? Where's the surrender of like, you know what? This isn't actually about me right now.
Yeah.
I pale in insignificance
That's
to
right.
this.
So when I was in high school, I never took a camera with me anywhere, and all my friends always had cameras. And I remember being asked, "Why don't you have a camera?" And I go, "I kind of want to experience what I'm experiencing." Like, it was my logic
brain
was
took
like,
the picture.
I want to be able to just be, and like same with gigs. Like, you go to gigs, and I go to see concerts and stuff all the time, and there's people that only view it through a phone, and you go. You could be sitting at home and watching this on channel, on V or whatever, or Max or whatever. You could. Why did you spend $150 to come and essentially listen to a CD and watch it through a screen?
I think it's acquisition mentality. I think it's got it. I got that.
And it's proof I was there.
Yeah. It's that whole like photos or you weren't there.
Well, exactly.
And that's the thing. It's the number of times someone's like, it's a crowded pub and they're like, check this out. And like, you can't even hear the footage. It's a white amorphous blob. Oh, that's Nick Cave, is it? You had to tell me it was Nick Cave because I couldn't have told it was Nick Cave. I'd rather you tell me the story about what your perspective was watching Nick Cave than watching this shit replica.
Yeah.
And if you want a photo of a work of art or a installation piece, there's professional photographers that have taken it. Go to Google Images and get that image. You be there, man.
Totally.
I like to look to, I think this is from my mum, history for comfort.
Yeah,
and as I get older, the more I look to history, the more excited I feel about just what could happen with the world. Like, I was watching all these docos about the friggin' moon landing, and it was really exciting. But I feel like throughout history, there's always been a pendulum of swinging back and forth in terms of how people process things, and then the massive rebellion of the following generations, whether it be 2 generations later. Like, in retrospect, you look through history and you go, that was really quick. Obviously, it was like 30 years. But I'm really interested to see if there is a rebellion going back the other way, because there's definitely
There will be.
slight changes that have happened, and I don't want to dwell on it because we've talked about it a bit, but there's little things that have happened where when people, even with marketing of products, it's like Australian grown on this farm by John and his kids. Like, there's this, people are looking for this very intimate experience of going to markets and knowing the seller and, taking your children and organic couldn't be more fucking in. Like, all that type of stuff, I feel like, is it swinging back the other way to a more grounded life? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we're just going towards robots, but I find it...
We are, but it could be both.
But then,
robots with a conscience.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's
Fucking
possible,
hopefully.
but I feel like, there's always a swing, and it's really interesting. You look at the 50s, did they think that the 70s was ever going to happen? It's, the 80s, it's like, I remember being a kid and my sister going to a expo in Japan, or her girlfriend going to an expo in Japan, and saying how people will be walking around with computers in their pocket, and me thinking that was laughable. Of course we all are. We're carrying iPhone. Like, it's, it's totally possible. But as a child, it was like, that doesn't exist.
I wrote a story in year 8 it was a science competition, and you could either do like experiments and stuff, because I was so bad at science. I'd do a photographic essay, or like,
Oh,
or one year I'd do the creative writing one. Like I was just like, I'd enter, but I'd always do something. I would always try and find the path of least resistance.
Yeah, that kid. We've all been there.
And I remember writing a story about the year 2000 and that we'd be living on the moon.
Yeah,
hovercraft.
Is it beyond 2000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were like, this all was going to happen. And you go, well, it didn't happen like we thought.
No.
But there's been such a leap in the last
Massive.
10 years. But I saw an interesting stat today. I saw on the news that Facebook use is down 70%.
Good.
Yeah, as it should be. I hate
Good.
it.
I was off it for 3 months
It's
recently.
disgusting.
And I'm now back on it and I regret every minute of getting back on. My mood changes. People get me down.
But see, it's down 70%. I mean, who knows if it's because of people, they say it's because people are dying off who have accounts, but I'm sure there's other things. But that type of stuff, that's what I mean. It's like people are getting tired of things and are they looking for more experiences that are, I don't know, maybe deeper?
Well, we are creatures who have evolved to have face-to-face human interaction, and the thing that is not taken into account,
And it's so important, human
of course,
interaction.
it's the only thing that fucking matters.
Yeah, if you don't give eye contact to a child, they grow up fucking
absolutely
messed up.
It's like 10. I can't remember the exact stats, but it's 10 to 15% of what we're doing right now is the words. The words, it's the body language, it's the eye contact, it's the intonation, the tone,
Is lost.
the gesticulation. It's all lost with online communication, and that's something that's not talked about very often. And I think that's what's causing a lot of the hardcore polarization and the hardcore offense that's being taken now, where it's like, no, that word meant that word. And it's like, well, no, if you'd heard it as it was actually meant to be said, it would have sounded completely differently. In context. But so I think I was reading a thing recently. It was some tech writer for the New York Times, I think, talking about how his son and his daughter, who are 13 and 15, are constantly making fun of him, going, oh, he's on his fucking Twitter machine again. And they don't want iPhones.
Yeah.
They've got little burner phones. They're just like, fucking be in reality, you loser.
Yeah.
And I think
That's what I mean.
And I think that's the hope.
Yeah.
That as all children look at their parents with contempt, you're going to have a generation of kids, hopefully, that aren't so indoctrinated. I think the ones that have been given an iPhone from birth are fucked. They're done. Yeah. But the ones that haven't, I think they will look at their parents constantly staring at what is essentially a fucking poker machine.
Yeah.
And kind of go, you know what, that's lame. You're lame. The same way...
It is a poker machine.
It is a fucking poker machine, and it's designed to be an addictive poker machine. The same way I don't believe that the generation coming up will have tattoos at all, because all their parents will have sleeve tattoos and neck tattoos. And like, mum's fucking lame. That's fucking, you're a loser. You know what I mean?
Or butterflies. Like, it can be anything.
The same way a lot of our
Tats are so
generation don't
common.
smoke cigarettes, because all our parents chain smoke cigarettes, and it's just that inbuilt thing to want to rebel against what your parents did. And so my hope is
it's a hope,
that but then I see strollers that have fucking plastic arms built in them so that the 1-year-old can have an iPad in their face, as though the fucking world isn't interesting enough for the fucking child.
One of my pet hates is when because I don't drive, I walk everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm always walking. And the number of times I've seen mums with a pram and they've got a precious cargo in there, which is their child, right?
Oh,
and
on
they're
their
on their
phone.
phone and they're stopped at the lights or whatever, and they are pushing their kid out first.
Yeah.
Right, that kid is going to cop anything.
It's the literal reverse of what you should be doing.
The kid is going to surely you would launch yourself into oncoming traffic because you're reading on your phone.
Yeah.
But the kid is the thing, and I've say things.
Yeah.
I walk. Honestly, genuinely, if somebody's walking, looking on their phone, and they're coming towards me, and I know that they're taking up the whole footpath. They're zigzagging along the footpath. I will wait till they get right near me, and I go, look up. And they shit themselves. But for that moment, that one moment, they're in reality.
Yep.
But then they go straight back to it. And you go,
Well, it's
man.
addictive.
Dude, there's an app on the phone now that turns the right corner of your phone into Street View, so you never actually have to look up from the
so
phone.
outrageous.
So that you can actually see what's coming on,
That
in
is
your...
outrageous.
It's unfucking believable.
This isn't probably like a positive thing, but I'm very interested in cognitive development and the way children process things, and I've worked with children for a long time. And I'm really fascinated to see, and Ben and I've talked about this we don't yet know the effect on the brain that these things have.
These poor guinea pig kids.
And there are children whose parents are reasonable. You know, there are children who are like, I'm allowed to use an iPad once a week for an hour. That's fine. They need to be updated with technology. But there are the other end where, like you said, there's the newborn who's crying and the mum puts a video that's supposed to calm them down in front of them. We have no idea what this has on cognitive development at all.
We don't even know what it does to people's eyeballs.
We don't know anything. What we do know is the best thing for children in terms of their development to become a human being that's not a psychopath is eye contact and people engaging with them face to face, like what we were talking about, body language. That's how they learn. They're copying you. If they're getting the majority of that from a screen, it'll be really interesting to see what happens in 20 years.
And you were mentioning, Ben, about, the imagination and stuff. And my nephews know that when they're around me, they're not allowed to, there's no guns, there's no reference to guns, there's no pretend guns, nothing. They know that Becca doesn't like, they call me Becca doesn't like that.
No, I agree.
But they also know that I'm going to say to them, rather than let's sit and watch a movie, or like movies are okay, like, because my youngest nephew adores, he wants to be a movie director.
Oh,
He's 8. I'm going to be a movie director. Great. I call him Bill Collins. He has no idea what that means. But I kind of go, okay. And so I will, and with the eldest nephew, when he was young, I would always, when I spoke to him on the phone, I would say to him, what did you dream last night?
Beautiful.
Because I think you need to foster that imagination. So when they're with me, they know we're going to make up dances. We're going to make up, we'll do a little play or whatever. Because I don't want them just immersed in a world that they can't really be a part of, because you're viewing it. And I interviewed this sleep expert on the radio one week, and I was fascinated by it. And I said, what are the factors that are causing most people these days to get not enough sleep? Apart from the usual stress, work, all that kind of stuff. And he said it's light pollution. And I had never heard it put in that context before of light pollution. And I went, I'd never heard that phrase before. And he was like, external light, and he said, and the blue light from a screen is the worst.
Toxic.
So there's all these people now developing sleeping disorders because of the fact that they've got their phone by their bed all the time. I put it on silent, and I use it as an alarm. That's all I do at night. No one can contact me.
You should put it on airplane mode as well.
Yeah, no one can contact me after a certain time. I don't want to know, because the number of times I've forgotten and it's gone off, it wakes me like that.
Yeah.
And you think we're developing sleep disorders based on the technology that we're immersed in,
I saw a great tweet the other day. It was like, I'm proud to be part of the first generation to go blind because we couldn't stop checking social media. Because it's true. I mean, like, I'm doing this job at, I'm in front of a computer all day. It's the first time I've ever used Visine for what it's actually used for. It's like my eyes are fucking killing me. It's fucked. I feel like this is burning at the end of the day, and it's like, what is this doing to my vision?
We're not meant to.
Well, we did not evolve to fucking stare at screens.
When I've had jobs where I had to stare at screen, my eyes are okay now, but I had to wear glasses for a while. And the optometrist was like, if you are going to do that job again, my eyes, they were like, stand up every hour, look at things far away, like exercise your eyes because they're just not built for it.
Yeah, my eyesight's getting worse. Another joy of being over 40.
Yeah, fine.
You're just like, I've got these things on a lot.
It's all right.
And now I'm one of that person where I go, it's on here, hang on a second. If I don't have my glasses on, I'm the one holding it at various distances, either close or far away to try and see. And I'm like, man, I look 65. I'm like, what is this shit on my screen?
Bring it on.
Oh,
we should all be so lucky.
It bums me out that, it does say, and, I'm not a parent, so it is easy to judge, but I have worked a lot with kids. So I've seen a lot.
Same, yeah.
And it bums me out that people a lot of people just seem to have kids because it's like, well, that's just what you do. And a lot of people don't seem to be delighted by the presence of their children and seem to see them as a burden and seem to see them as a hassle. And it's just, if you don't want to interact with it, Don't fucking have it. It's cool. You don't need to have it.
But there's so many government perks to having kids.
Cool.
Like every year I wait in the budget as a single childless woman over 40 in the arts, and I wait to see, what have I got this budget? Yeah. And now Medicare is changing for families that can get a discount of up to $2,000 or something a year by combining all their Medicare into the one thing. And I go, great, That's for those with families. What about the single people in the world?
And also, if
Don't
you're a
have
single
that luxury?
person with more than one job, you're taxed through the wazoo.
Tax through the wazoo. I don't get a baby bonus because I haven't had that. I don't get to. I had to pay for my big screen TV. Like, you know, I had to work hard for that. I didn't just pop one out. You know.
Yeah, we're definitely doing a few things wrong.
But this idea of like outsourcing the raising of your child to a piece of technology without having any understanding of what the long-term ramifications of it are is just it vicariously breaks my fucking heart. It breaks my.
I agree.
It's just unbelievable.
There's every now and then, not kids that I think that are completely brought up on it, like the ones that are in prams watching stuff. But every now and then there's a really lovely moment where you see a child with an iPad and they go, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And they'll throw it down and go and chase their friend or pick up sand and throw it or do something destructive that they should be doing, like pull a tree apart. And you're like, oh,
Yeah, I know.
that's so lovely.
Good old days.
Yeah, like it's so lovely,
There needs
you
to
know.
be more value put on boredom.
Yes.
We would not be out of the caves if not for boredom.
We wouldn't be comics if
We wouldn't be
moments of inertia where we did nothing and were bored. And
we wouldn't be
we
be the human species if not
That's
for
true.
boredom. Every great philosophical idea, every scientific breakthrough, every play, every poem, everything came from someone going, "I'm bored."
What can I do?
You know, I used to do a joke on stage, but it's not even a joke. It's just a statement of fact. This generation will lose more great minds to Facebook than to Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
you know, how many
yeah,
Shakespeares
so
have we
true.
lost? How many? You know,
So
because
true.
they're just not engaging with fucking anything
But I
other
think-
than click,
yeah.
click, 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 click.
Exactly.
I think they will eventually. I mean, like there is such a pleasure to being bored as well, and there's such a good feeling, like you were saying when you were young and you'd lie and listen to, you know, process your thoughts, Ben, about the day. I remember being a teenager, and not a young teenager, like 17, and loving lying in my bed, thinking about the people I liked, the dudes I had crushes on, thinking about, you know, something embarrassing that happened. But you're so indulgent in those things and they feel good to think about. They feel fucking better than Instagram ever will. You know, it's like, and so there's that hope that maybe people go into that, because even now, I love it. If I'm home alone, I'm either listening to a podcast or just mindlessly doing something without anything.
Yeah.
And it feels great to just let thoughts float through you that mean nothing.
Yeah. Or doing that thing where you get to the end of the day and you're like, right, I'm going to, in my mind, start at the very start of this day and try and remember every possible thing I can possibly remember that happened today in sequence. You know,
never
and
done that.
I do it most nights.
That's nice.
You know, it's a wonderful exercise because you start remembering all these weird little tiny little moments, you know, like the joke you had with the bus driver or whatever it is, you know, and it just like, and you realize your capacity to remember so much of the day. But, you know, if you're just buried in this phone or whatever, watching, you know, just go, oh, whatever, you lose it all. And these are these precious jewels of memory. They're beautiful.
And that allows for you to have an emotional connection to it too, because you go, oh, I had that laugh with that bus driver, and that made me feel good. You know,
mine was
now
real.
We get told how to feel in response to this video. Be outraged.
No, I hate that
You know,
shit
look
so
at the
much.
cutest thing you'll ever see today.
Hate this person.
This is a beautiful
Why?
moment. And you're going, like, stop telling me how to respond. Like, I think that's an issue too. Like, all of this technology is distancing ourselves from the way we feel.
Nothing shits me more than when people like outrage at whatever. It's like, I don't give a fuck what
And
that
it's like,
person
and
says.
what am I?
Outrage?
And I'm a bad person if I'm not outraged.
Exactly.
by
Yeah, it's
that?
like you feel outraged
If I'm
because
indifferent to
someone
it?
you don't know on the other side of the world made a throwaway comment that they didn't think about.
Yeah.
That caused outrage, really?
Yeah,
It's like the biggest clue for me that my phone is not good for me is I will use it the most when I'm in a severely anxious state.
Yeah.
So Benny and I were talking about it the other day, but we had like a really tense passive argument. We weren't arguing. We were just angry at each other for like a few weeks. And before we talked it out, the few days before, I was in such an anxious, heightened state about our friendship, our relationship, everything in life, because I just wasn't okay. And I was on my phone more than I've ever been.
Same-
To
no, but I
the
was
point
doing the
where
same thing.
my partner, Chris, was like, are you okay? Like, you're never on your phone this much. Like, it's cool if you want to be, but are you all right? I couldn't focus.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of what I wanted to read. Couldn't read an article. Couldn't finish anything. So those sites are perfect because you're just
of
flicking
course.
through bullshit. You're reading a sentence and off you go. And I was like, wow, if those types of things are ideal for when I'm at my mental worst, maybe they're not great for me.
Exactly. And then
you know?
not even to mention the dating apps. Like, I've been on there, done them all, right?
Isn't it just?
And you're just going, okay, so you've reduced people to a commodity. You're either going to buy or not. But I don't call it swiping left or right. It's purchase or not purchasing. Because that's what you're doing. You're either buying their bullshit or you're not buying their bullshit.
Yeah.
And
judging them within a nanosecond.
Exactly right. So
Pretty unhealthy.
Gone are the days. You get to know somebody, like you were saying, like even on chat, like when you couldn't see the person, it was the conversation, it was the words, it was their intelligence, it was their brain that made you go, I'm horny now. You know?
No, totally.
That's what made you go,
Absolutely.
let's have some sex, online sex. But now it's like, now you're like, not interested.
Not enough Instagram filters on that profile photo. Dismissed.
Exactly. And then you think, I was on Bumble for a while, and this just makes me laugh. Like I was on Tinder, and then I went on to Bumble because I heard Bumble's the way to go because the women instigate the contact.
Right?
So a guy can't make initial contact, the woman has to. So I was like, okay, so I can see that this is like a pro woman thing. Let's give it a go. And honestly, without fail, all of the guys that I had encountered on Tinder were on Bumble.
Oh, man.
Same people. And I basically said that I did an impression of them going, oh, what? Oh, you're a feminist? Oh, yeah, I'll be a feminist if it means I'll still get a room. Like, they don't care about the fact that the woman is instigating because they're still going to be the ones that will judge you and call the shots.
Yeah.
And then when you do instigate, like you match and then you do instigate contact and then they unmatch you straight away. Now, I'm old enough and I hope secure enough to not let that get to me.
Yeah.
Because I've been dismissed instantly through, they hated the way I said hello. Maybe punctuation was incorrect. I don't know. No, that's me. I unfriend.
You're like, I'm a
swipe left when people can't use punctuation.
No,
it's apostrophe R-E. But it's
Agreed.
like, again, we're talking about this free generation of non-judgment of women can be who they women empowerment, but you're still setting yourself up to be judged physically on these apps. You're still allowing yourself to be rejected purely based on the way you look. Like there is a wrong message with that as well.
But you know what's so fucked about it, right? If you did if you ran through your exes in your head, just a picture of them, would you find all of them immediately?
No.
Do you know exactly?
No.
So people I've loved and still care about so deeply. If I saw an image of them and I was sitting at home in a foul mood, swiping, not flicking, not flicking, swiping left and right, it sounded disgusting.
It's usually up and down.
I was like, I'm so sorry that it went there. I am so sorry. But there's people that I've adored that I would completely ignore because I'm like, not my type. You're deleting pheromones, man. There's some people you meet where you're like, hello, and you don't know why, but you're like, even your friends are like, that guy is, that girl is geeky, and you're like, I'm so fucking into it.
And words and the brain, brain.
And
I look at all the guys that and if you were to line up all the photos of the guys that I've been with in the past, and you go, there is no type.
Yes,
I don't have a type. Yes, if you said to me, "What's your ideal type?" and I could say,
educated.
I love a sleeve tat, a guy with a sleeve tat, and I'm gone. I'm hello ovary burst.
Dreads.
Love it. But that's my ideal. But it doesn't mean I'm going to dismiss somebody who doesn't have a
Of
sleeve
course.
tat.
And doesn't mean you're going to love someone who does.
Exactly right. And you look at all the guys, and all of them are this odd collection of beautiful people, but there's something unique about them that makes me go, oh yeah. There's something that you would never know from a photograph. You would never know from never speaking to them. And that's why, improvisers around the world, I fall for them all the time because there's a level of trust on stage that you have to have with somebody to improvise and their brain.
Yeah.
And there's I remember meeting a guy for the first time. God, this was a really amazing experience. New Zealand Improv Festival and a guy from a Canadian improviser. And he was the antithesis of what I just described, right? The sleeve tat and all that. A complete antithesis. We met on stage. We'd never met before.
Oh, this is hot.
So we get put on stage together and we have to play a scene together. And it was a scene where he... Oh, that's right. It was. He had to take me on a date, because do you like Canadian men? Was the setup, and I was like, well, I've been known to, that kind of thing. So they set us up on this, it's a date. You're going to show, Rebecca around, la 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 la, and he's like, and he's talking, and he started the scene, and he starts wooing and doing all that kind of stuff, and I just sat there nodding to everything he said for about 3 minutes, and then he goes, "Don't you think?" And I went, "Yeah, no, I can't believe that like, we're here. Like, this most annoying character, this awful woman. And he just looked at me and like the glint in his eye was like, game on. And it was foreplay on stage. And we just were bouncing off each other like mentally. And then we had to play another scene where it was the final scene, whoever out of the two of us was going to win. And the challenge was you have to be the cutest.
Yeah.
And he came in going, hello, I'm here at the Happy Dreams and Unicorn store. And I just said, I'm not old enough to serve. And the audience just went, he just threw it in and went, oh, you win. From then on, couldn't shake the guy. The whole festival, hovering around. And I looked at him and I just went, you're brilliant. You're a genius in the improv world. You are extraordinary. And we came together for that festival and it would never have happened.
Yeah.
Had I'm sure for him as well with me, just gone on face value.
Yeah.
We had to get to know each other's brain. And I call it being mind fucked. And there's nothing sexier.
Well, and sexiness is such a difficult thing. It transcends aesthetic. You know, the floor is often the sexiest thing. There was an experience I had. Jen witnessed it.
The marina thing. That's what I was thinking of when you said that.
I'll tell Beck what happened. It was unbelievable. So, you know Marina Abramovic. For anyone that's listening that doesn't know Marina Abramovic, she's a Romanian performance artist. And she's most famous. Her most famous thing is that you sit across from her and you look her in the eyes and everything unfolds.
And you just sit together with sound silencing headphones.
So I was 2 weeks out of the worst breakup of my life. I was devastated. I was
like, come
insane.
to a performance art experience.
But honestly, it was the greatest thing. It was the greatest thing you've ever done for me. So it was in a giant warehouse in Sydney. You had to surrender all phones, watches. It was a timeless, silent environment.
Right.
Noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah.
And it was just mindfulness activities. So there was an activity where you separated white grains of rice from black grains of rice.
Yeah.
And there was an activity where you just had a nap and someone tucked you in and gave you a cuddle. And then there was an activity where you walked in slow motion, and there was a giant section where there were just seats opposite each other, and you would sit down and a stranger would sit opposite you and you would lock eyes. And I watched Jen do it a couple of times and I was terrified. I was like, it's just
so
too much, man. It's too much.
But
and you realise how
comforting in a weird way too.
Well, it became comforting. So so the first person I sat down with, we sat down, we locked eyes, and we started weeping. After about 3 or 4 minutes, we just started crying. Because obviously she clocked whatever pain I was in, and I clocked whatever pain she was in. All silent, no words.
Amazing.
Yeah, you can't even hear anything.
You can't hear anything. And and it was really interesting. I probably did it with about half a dozen people, and some of them went for 10 minutes. Only one of them was very brief. We both kind of silently agreed, actually, I don't want to be in your head.
Yeah, some of them were dark.
Yeah. And
some were quite dark where you were like, oh, I feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then there was one, and it's to this day, it is one of the greatest romances of my life.
I love it.
It was amazing.
It was, So I'm sitting there, and this woman sits down, young woman. And of course,
because you'd sit and there'd be an empty seat. So she had seen Ben and was like,
walked over
and sat down. And of course, as we all do, you make an immediate aesthetic judgment call on anyone that you first see. And my first thought was, she's kind of plain looking. And we lock eyes, and we estimate, because it was a timeless place, but Jen went and did a whole 3 or 4 different activities.
You would have been there, I'm going to guess, at least 15 minutes.
No, it was longer than that.
Yeah, at least 15.
You did the rice counting. You did the slow motion walking.
Kept checking in on him because it was one big room.
Yeah.
And so I would sit with people and then I'd check in and Ben would still be there and then
It was
I'd
a
come
long
back.
fucking
It was a
time.
long time. Yeah. It was intense.
We had an epic romance. We fucked each other. I came. I'm pretty sure she came because she, at one point, her face went completely red. And
you guys had an audience, not in a gross way, but so if you were seeing people who had like a
it was
tight,
unbelievable.
It sounds weird, like a tight connection, you'd sort of gather around and just kind of watch. And when I came back the last time, they had you had an audience essentially.
We had a big crowd around us watching because we were laughing, we were crying.
And you were so connected.
And we were just locked in. And it was, like I said, to this day, it was one of the greatest. I don't know her name. We never spoke a word with each other.
How
and she was
wonderful.
the sexiest, most beautiful, most wonderful person.
Well,
and
they say, I know it's such a cliche, but it's so freaking true that the eyes are the window to the soul.
Completely.
And just by locking in, you get to see almost I see it like, you know, they say your life flashes before your eyes when you're about to die, and you see like from birth up till now.
Yeah.
I reckon you can see the same in a person
Absolutely.
Yes.
simply by making eye
Yep.
contact with them.
Yeah.
Their whole point up to now.
Yeah,
And you can tell there's like an animal instinct. So Ben and this young woman, like clearly after a few minutes went, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, and then they sort of went on this roller coaster ride. There's a few moments where I had a great time. And then when we talked about it after, I remember you saying, Ben, like, was there anyone that was sort of, you know, wasn't a positive experience or whatever? And there was. There was one guy I sat down with and I just got so uncomfortable. And I was like, well, no, you know, look at him and, you know, because the creepiest thing that happens, which sounds kind of mental,
No, it's
people's
true.
faces change.
They do. They do.
Like, the
Because
longer
she
you
turned
look at
from
them-
plain to the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
Right? The longer you look at them, all of a sudden you're like, wow, you are
You're alive. You're a human.
yeah, well, you're either the most beautiful thing or you're so interesting or you're frightening. You know, it goes either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had what you could clearly see, even from an external perspective, like a roller coaster experience together. It was
Yeah,
pretty,
this
it was
rolling
quite full
laughter
on.
and like my heart was, and like, you know, and her heart, like, I mean,
And then
I,
you were like floating afterwards for ages.
I
Like,
couldn't
it was
believe
a
it. It was
full-on-
So great.
and honestly, it was what? That was 2015. So it was 3 years,
Yeah.
more than 3 years ago. And still to this day, you know, I've had 3 great long-term relationships in my life, like 3 epic ones. And I would say that's the 4th great relationship I've had in my
That's
life.
amazing.
And it was, whatever it was, 20 minutes, half an hour, an hour. I
It
don't
was
know how
more
long
than
it
20.
was.
It was a long time.
It was a long fucking time.
Yeah.
And I will never forget it. And for a long time, I was like, you know, I'd be walking through the tunnel at Central
Looking
Station going,
for
oh, I need to find her. And it's like, no, that's all. It was that. That's what it was.
But, you know,
that's all it ever could
I
be.
maintain that when energy is, I mean, and I hate to bring it back to improv all the time, but the people
No,
ask
no.
why I love it, but that's exactly why. Because
Yeah.
you can play a scene with somebody that you've never met before, and simply by locking eyes, and that's the first thing I say in improv, you have to make eye contact because it tells the other person you're safe. It reaffirms that you are to them. And then with an implicit trust, you can go anywhere and do anything. You can, as you said, you can have an
love
argument
affair.
with them. You can have a love affair. You can things can go horribly
it was
wrong,
crazy.
and it's extraordinary that can happen. But that transference of energy, I believe, that won't leave you. She's still walking around with that in your part of your energy.
Yeah,
with
I hope
her.
so.
Yeah.
And you with hers.
Yeah.
And I believe if it's, you know, the world aligns and if the energy's right, you will see her again.
Oh, but you know,
Oh, it was
the-
definitely mutual. You both stayed there for longer than anyone.
yeah.
So when
and she
it's
tore herself away. Like it ended with her just going like, ugh, and like tearing herself away from it.
What
'cause
a
it just
great
all got,
experience.
It was
all got
awesome.
too much. But you know, yeah, we had an audience and everything. But you know, there is that part of me that's like, oh, I would love to see her again. But then there's that part of me also
you
that's
don't wanna
like, you know
spoil it?
what? It was perfection.
it was a moment in time.
Yeah.
It was a moment, and we had our time, and I don't need to know her name,
And, I mean-
I don't need to know anything else
Yeah,
about
yeah,
her
yeah.
because we know everything about each other. It was
how beautiful.
crazy.
It was pretty intense.
I want that. Like,
Yeah, it was fantastic. Like, it was amazing. It was amazing to see.
Yeah.
Because I had cool experiences with people, but they were like sort of lovable, like cuddly experiences where you get up and hug. But their experience was like, woo! Like, people were watching and you're like, oh my God, I feel inappropriate. And they're like,
Dirty watching.
they're literally like a meter away, hands on knees.
Yeah.
You know, they're not being gross. And it was, yeah.
And when I say
it was
I
full on.
I came, it wasn't like a.
No.
It was like
Well,
we
Jesus.
made but like it could be interpreted that way. It was like we made love.
Hopefully not.
and
We
it was
made
a,
love.
It was a euphoria.
It was euphoric.
Yeah,
It was just
yeah.
like, and we were giddy
That's
and like.
beautiful.
This is testament to how intense it was. I don't know if you know, but I think when it was happening, Marina came into the room and sat down,
yeah.
and people were still staring at them. And I told Ben later, I was like, Marina came into the room and sat with people. You know, it was amazing.
Yeah,
It
nice
was
work.
fabulous
Upstaging.
experience.
Always
Fuck
upstaging.
yeah,
That's how
better
you
than
do it.
Marina.
Headlining. No, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
It was
but it's, I mean,
fantastic.
I had one experience with an improviser from Italy who spoke incredibly limited English.
Hot.
And so you just like, we're playing a scene together. And of course, we think, and that's where I believe improv can be sort of transcendent of language and everything, is when you know the basic rules of improv, say yes, you know, make offers, all that kind of stuff. Everybody knows the basic blueprint to it. But, you know, what happens then is up to you guys. And I was like, how are we going to play this scene together?
Yeah.
And we were given the option. It was the setting was backstage preparing for a grand performance. And so I just sat down and pretended I was at the makeup mirror and was doing my makeup. And his name's Antonio, and extraordinary. A bit of a commedia expert as well. So
Yeah,
his
cool.
mime skills are extraordinary. And he just instantly swapped, like came around and was my reflection.
Beautiful.
And just starts, and like I'm doing the makeup and he's copying everything, like reflecting everything that I'm doing. And then the scene ends up like we can't communicate verbally, but keeping eye contact that whole time. And then everything I did, he was just watching and he was following me along. And then at one point I sort of turned like frozen in time. And then this big smile came across his face and he puts his hand and it like comes through the mirror. And I reach out and grab it. And then that's the decision then you make. Is he going to pull me into his world or him into mine? And he just relented and let me pull him out through the mirror. And we slow danced for a minute. And that was the scene.
Romantic.
And I was just like, that is I will never forget that because that was pure and utter, I believe in you, I trust you. And I use a mantra before I perform in improv all the time. And I say to my teammates, I see you and I hear you. And that interaction, you saw her. Yes, you couldn't hear her, but you
could
felt
read
her.
and you could read
Saw
her.
and you felt her. And that's just joyous communication.
Yeah.
I wish the world was like that.
No, but and that,
Oh, it's so romantic.
but it goes back. But that,
So romantic.
But that goes back to a lot of the stuff we were talking about before that's so lost with all this online communication. You know, that it's like that's what it is. It's seeing you know, you're in there. I see you. You're in there's someone behind those eyes.
Yes.
There's a real person
And
there.
the fact that you said like when she sat down, you were like, oh yeah, you know, but
Yeah, it
then
was
that
just-
she became
she
beautiful.
became the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my entire life.
Beyond her as well, which is like how rare is that to get that opportunity? Oh, I want to do that.
We were talking about how rarely even people in relationships will sit and just look at each other in the eyes.
Yeah.
It's really uncomfortable for people because we were both on a high. Ben and I were both on a high afterwards. We went to a comedy night. We were just staring at everyone in the eye. It was intense.
A lot of people fell in love with Jen.
Yeah, it was pretty great. No, it was full on. It was full on. But, you know, you realize how intimate it is. But if you're looking on someone, I mean, even Chris now, who's my partner, who I adore, if I saw his, like, you know, Tinder profile, I mean, he's into heavy metal. It'd be him at fucking
Sugar.
Yeah, it'd be him at like metal gigs, like dressed in black, looking drunk. I'd be like, no way. You know, I wouldn't think like, oh, this dude's into watching Churchill documentaries with me for 5 hours.
And
you know,
cooking gnocchi.
and making gnocchi from you know, like, you know, this guy cooks better than me, or this guy wants to travel. Like, I'd just be like, nah, like it's, you know,
Yeah, totally.
you simplify it all.
And then that's when I get like just, and then you meet up, like I've been on dates, you know, with guys, and eventually because the conversation, the band has been great, you know, and you go out and you meet them and then you go, oh, that's right. You can delete what you've written and rewrite it at least 15 times before you respond to me.
Yeah.
But face to face, if you can't keep up with the conversation, and I'm a talker, like if you can't, and I'm an open book, and if you can't meet that, then I'm not interested. And so many times in the first 10 minutes, I've just gone, you aren't who you pretend to be online.
Yeah.
You're not that spontaneous riffing kind of guy that I was attracted to.
Well, they can nail it on paper, but in life,
In
they're not
life,
okay.
just not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Man,
Yeah.
like, you know, those types of like, you know, attraction without saying a word, the look across the room and getting to know someone. I mean, it's so important.
I had one of my
So
first long-term relationship was that with Olga. You know, I was a door guy at the Comedy Store and she was just there as an audience member. And this had never happened in my life before. And she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever known in my life. And we just locked eyes from across the room.
She's amazing.
Yeah, and she left the venue, and something in my head was I followed her down the stairs like, oh, where are you going? You should stay for the late show. And we had a 5-year relationship, and it was just that. It was just locking eyes from across the room.
And the chemistry though through the room. It's
and we
palpable.
and it was there. You know, it was just like
What is it they say in The Godfather? It's the thunderbolt. Is that the
Yeah. Well, you're not going to get
Thunderbolt.
that from fucking Tinder.
No thunderbolts. Just
well, there ain't no
a lot of-
pheromones, there ain't no electricity. It's
No,
just fucking.
which is what we
it's
live off.
It's data and algorithms, and it's a real fucking bummer.
And you've got to get over the fact that they're not even using their photos.
Yeah.
I've done that. I'm a queen of the reverse image search online dating.
Really?
What does
Here's
that
a
mean?
tip to everybody. If you look at some photos of a guy and you start chatting, he starts chatting to you and stuff, and you go, wow, he's incredibly good looking. And you go, might just download those photos, put them into a Google reverse image search, and you find where those photos are sourced from. It happened to me with one guy, and he'd stolen these photos from a Danish skier who was gorgeous.
But how did he not know that he would be undone?
But that's exactly right. They just keep flinging it out there, hoping it sticks at some point. And it was so hilarious because I could tell just from the time. I said it's obviously some 14-year-old guy who wants a photo of my boob so he can wank himself to sleep.
A Danish skier.
So,
He's like, I'm gonna get tits. I'm gonna get tits.
And I was like, hey, give me a photo. And I was like, I just knew I was dealing with someone that wasn't who he was. And then I can't remember the name of the skier himself, but I then
Bless him.
said something like, he's like, we should meet up. What are you doing now? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, like Drago or whatever.
Sure,
He's like, straight away, gone. Like, gone. Where did you go? Drago disappeared. He's obviously, there's snow falls heavy today.
There's been an avalanche.
So that's my one tip I can leave everyone with is the reverse Google image search will save you a world
Amazing.
of grief.
Thank you so much for talking to us
Good
tonight.
times.
That was lovely. We didn't get to a word because we didn't need to.
No.
Because it was wonderful. But would you like to enter a word for future guests?
Oh, absolutely.
If you so wish.
Okay. Scar.
Oh, cool.
Very
Thank
good.
you very much.
Also, this is something else I want to start asking. Are there any books, podcasts, albums, movies
that people
you
recommend.
would like to that you would like to put out into the audience's
I was
ears?
thinking about this today.
Yeah.
So many books.
Like
and
something that
things.
really kind of touched you recently.
Okay, let me think. Oh, a TV series that is really got me is on
Housewives?
Stan. Yeah. It's the Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's amazing. Is Kidding. It's on Stan at the
Is that
moment.
that Jim Carrey
It's Jim
show?
Carrey.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
cool.
And it is like it moves me like in ways something has not in a long time.
Right.
I go from crying, hurting to out loud laughter in the space of an
Beautiful.
episode. It is just I think it's art.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think it's the best thing Jim Carrey's ever done. And it's got Frank Langella in it who like
And it's directed by Michelle Gondry.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Catherine Keener, and it's just like I'm going to be sad when the
Yeah.
season finishes. It's one of those things that you just keep watching, and Jim Carrey is I think extraordinary in it. So that's my TV show at the moment, and album wise, totally getting into another Hip Hop Evolution. Check it out.
Great show.
I love it. Season 2.
I don't like
just
the
watched
host,
season 2.
but
Yeah, season 2 maybe not as good as season 1, but you know, and so as a result, I'm listening to a lot of R&B and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff,
Yeah, great.
and I'm saying to everybody, the back catalogue and new stuff of Raphael Sadiq, who is in Tony Tony Tone, get on it.
cool.
Especially if you want to make love.
Yeah, cool, Meg. All right.
where can people find you online or anything you want to
They
plug?
can find me
radio.
on Instagram, on Facebook. I like to be hidden, and Twitter. I don't use it, so Instagram's probably the place. to-
Awesome.
and I use it maybe once a month.
Oh, Beck,
That's
thank you
great.
so much for talking to us. It was such a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yay!